left, right, out. Here I am again, September 29th. I'm gonna be gone for a couple days, so I'm not gonna do any another one of these till next week, more than likely. But I'm gonna go over a couple things, and we'll try to make it a good one. So there was a hearing yesterday with Gen.Milley, Secretary Austin, and I can't remember the Marine Corps General that was there, a couple other guys, and it kind of went. There's a lot of videos going around Tom Cotton questioning Gen.Milley, asking him why hasn't he resigned. There's a lot to do about the Afghanistan debacle and what his role played in that, whether the generals advised Biden of possibilities, the least, most, and most likely outcomes there. And it seemed to be that they were implying that they were. But then at the same time, according to Biden himself, that he didn't get any of these COAs, these courses of actions, or these probable outcomes that were expressed to him. But the general seemed to say elsewhere. So who's lying? We don't know. Another thing with Secretary Austin there, I believe he was questioned. I only got to see part of it. If I was them, I'd have more pressed Milley on the whole phone call to China and see why he hasn't resigned over that. But that's besides the point. So let's go to Secretary Austin. Secretary Austin, it was brought to his attention apparently there that Lieutenant Colonel Schuler is in the brig. If you don't remember him, he's the Marine officer that made a viral video questioning why nobody's been held accountable over the Afghanistan debacle. Well, I agree with him. He, making a viral video like that, yeah, while you're still under the cloth and under the oath and wearing the Marine Corps uniform, that is precarious. I agree with him. And there are certain times where I could see, I don't know if he exhausted all avenues, which I've been in a similar predicament at one time over something that happened in Ukraine. I was gonna blow the whistle because we were left high and dry, and it was a huge debacle. And of course, the press, there was very little press on it. There was some, but it wasn't, obviously nothing to the extent of what happened in Afghanistan. But people's lives were on the line there. And my gunny at the time told me, oh, well, let's go through the proper channels instead. I wasn't going to go make a viral video or anything, but I was going to shoot this thing because there were so many higher level people that were involved in this. That were above and directly my chain of command, and they didn't want to hear it, and they didn't even act like their decisions were bad whatsoever. They didn't take responsibility for their actions. I was going to shoot it up towards the senators or towards my congressman first, and then to my two senators. But my gunny told me, "Oh, let's go through the proper channels, whatever." Which I believed him. He's an awesome guy, and I think that maybe he tried. I don't know, but nothing happened. Nobody got relieved of duty. Nobody got reprimanded or whatnot. So I understand that Lieutenant Colonel Schuler's aggravation, especially being infantry officer, but maybe he gets held accountable. I think they're holding him for 4 different UCM under 4 different articles of the UCMJ. I didn't look up to see which 4 they were, but the fact that he was put under watch and he's in the brig is precarious to me. And he resigned, which he can as a commissioned officer do so. It seems to be it might turn into a political stunt. We'll see what happens. But the point being is, I guess Secretary Austin didn't even know this. And this is kind of a big deal because this guy, he's doing something that, I don't know what other steps he did before he went to this measure. Did he go up through the channels and try to air his, displeasure with what's going on and why nobody's being held accountable within the chain of command? I don't know. Regardless, he's standing up for what is right, and maybe he'll be held accountable, have to pay that price. I'm sure he'll be fine afterwards, but I don't want him to be a political pariah in all this, because from everything I've heard, he's a great man, and he's calling him out, like, hey, somebody does need to be held accountable. Whoever executed this plan, and so be it. If that's the administration that ordered this, then they should be held accountable as well, especially the administration, because it all comes down to Biden. He is the commander-in-chief, but maybe somebody below him made some bad calls. I mean, I don't know because I wasn't in that room, but somebody needs to be held accountable, and nobody is. While the guy on the ground, the lesser guy, loses a rifle, let alone whatever billions of dollars of equipment, but he loses a rifle, ACOG, or maybe even a boot or something, he gets held accountable liable. A gas mask, that's a good example. A gas mask, personal gas mask, you get issued. You lose that, you're going to be held financially liable, and you might even get NJP'd over it as a enlisted guy. And that's ridiculous that they get held to a certain standard and these higher ranking officers don't. Anyway, so Secretary Austin had no idea that was going on, and you think that you have a lieutenant colonel is nothing to nothing to bat an eye about. That's in the Marine Corps especially, that's a very respected rank. I mean, you've been through some stuff in there, and to think that Secretary Austin had no idea that he was imprisoned, especially during this political climate and the debacle. I don't know if he's just not briefed that he wasn't, that doesn't seem to be a pressing issue, but he had no idea. And I actually hope that maybe somebody will step in and pressure the military to either make sure he gets a fair trial or a fair hearing, or release him and just let him put in his resignation and just let him get out, let's separate, and just bygones be bygones. But we'll see. That's very interesting. Let's see here what else I got, because there's some. So I brought up, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago about this thing, and now they're sneaking into the budget bill where the IRS is going to be requiring reporting of $600 transactions and above. Well, apparently the Dems are backing off on that a little bit, and they want to raise it to $10,000. Well, we already have a $10,000 wire transfer limit or precarious purchases. You usually do that even when you do a car. Like if you put $10,000 or more, you fill out a form to send to them. Which back in the day, I remember like why is the IRS getting this kind of information? And then there's people, innocent Americans that have been imprisoned over structuring, is what they call it, where they've either taken out money or deposited money that are around the $10,000. But if you're like I said, if your hammer and everything looks like a nail, you see these transactions, maybe you pull out $9,900, and they look at it. Well, you're trying to avoid the reporting, requirements under, I believe, is something under the Bank Secrecy Act or something. It was along the lines of the Patriot Act in order to stop terrorism and money laundering or whatever. But anyway, so they've got some innocent Americans under structuring, because you can also get held criminally liable if you take out a number of deposits that just happen to be around $10,000, and they deem you that you might suspiciously done it to avoid the $10,000 minimum anyway. So they're raising that. How about we just eliminate that completely? Because that's just like you're basically, they're looking at you as a criminal, essentially. In my opinion, it's one of the most egregious things I've seen, that you have to report all your transactions. It's actually driving people into more of a cryptocurrency deal, which is, hey, that's what they want. But here's the other thing on the cryptocurrency thing. So it's almost like, you see the Chinese government, they're really going after cryptocurrencies hard, but it's almost like they're coming out with their own crypto, a crypto yuan, and they almost don't want that. They don't want anything competing as it rolls out. But maybe we'll start doing something like that with the IRS. But wait until if the Fed coin comes out, we're deeming the Fed coin. That is just the ultimate tracking device. Because every transaction will be on some sort of blockchain or ledger system that the IRS and the Fed and them can look at. And that's one of my criticisms of some of the cryptos, is the fact that once you discover, which you can figure out people's wallets. You can then track purchases or movement of money. Not that you can't do it right now with banks, but if you were in cash or maybe a gold, silver, it's really hard to do that. But if you were transacting through your debit card or credit card, you're already in that, they can do that. But this might give it an easier step. You don't even have to look at the banks anymore. You can look at the public ledger system if they're doing it, and then they can somehow, if they can tie the wallet to you, or however they're going to roll it, maybe they give people wallets so they already know who we are. I mean, there's a number of possibilities here, but it's a lot of privacy concerns with the Fed coming out with their own digital currency, which essentially we already have a digital currency. Like, how many of you use cash? And they've been pushing it that way. I want you to use more cash, actually, but it's been inevitable over the last so many years that we've been using our debit cards when it's easy to track. And yeah, you can say there's some good things about it, because you can, verify where people are. You can, in legitimate criminal investigations and whatnot, but that also can be used against you. And I'm sure, I know that's happened to some politicians, and just from word and just knowing how they operate, having ran for office and seen how these people within the party system, how they conduct business. I mean, it's something that's privacy is essential, and that's part of being American, is understanding the privacy rights. So I don't understand how we've lost that completely. We're in this groupthink. Somehow we have some we can put these benevolent leaders in to control our lives. But in life, I realize that once people are willing to give up responsibility, and once they do, they revert back to the most infantile part of themselves. Because once you give away responsibility, you're more apt to give more of it away, and the people in the government are more than happy to take it. And you don't develop as much. You don't have the same sense of accomplishment, and there's a lot of other ramifications I won't get into. But I've thought this out real significantly when it comes to that. The more responsibility you give, the more you're willing to give, and the more dependent upon the people you've given the responsibility to you become. And you also tend to be less individualistic, which that's what the government seems to be looking for. Anyway, there's a lot of things going on in the economy. Like I said, we're looking at kind of a bounce back after yesterday's sell-off. The yield 10 years at 152. I mean, at least it's stabilized around that area, which is going to, as long as it's not blowing out, it should stabilize the market. We'll see what happens. Of course, there's other things going on in the budget. I'm seeing the VIX over 20. It's in the mid-20s, I'll call it 23. And like I said, you just need to hedge yourself. There's good companies to buy. There's also different ways to hedge those bets and create income. And you don't want to be speculating in here, because you can get ripped. You can get your face ripped off pretty easy, because we're starting to get into some volatility here, especially with the budget thing. The thing that concerns me the last couple days with the sell-off and everything is the fact that you look at oil. Oil is at 75 something a barrel still. Even with that huge sell-off, it didn't hardly move. It's been in the mid-70s, and it's holding tight. And I got to take a breath on that one, because the next move up, if something isn't done where we can actually either have demand destruction or supply increase or some kind of monetary reform. So what do we have realistically? Well, monetary reform definitely isn't happening. Demand destruction is a possibility, but not, I don't think in the short term, is a viable option. Supply increase is also something that you just can't click over. But even then, so China is releasing some of their reserves, which is equivalent to the strategic oil reserves that we have. They've been releasing. It's not doing anything, man. So we're seeing the inflation, the money going into oil. That's where it's flooding right now. I don't know what to tell you on that one. That one's going to be iffy. Cryptocurrencies are, they're kind of stabilizing now. Bitcoin's held that 40,000. It's there. You have some other cryptos that are doing well. And I don't think the Chinese thing is really, China does stuff, they always, every month they have something they announce about cryptocurrency. The fact that cryptocurrency is harder to trace, it's easier to move money throughout borders, it only strengthens it, in my opinion. Yeah, the Chinese will try to do whatever they do, but people that don't want to be under the eye of the government are going to utilize cryptocurrencies in various ways. And I don't know how the China is going to officially lock down on that, but other places in the country seeing this, or in the world seeing this, I think it'll be more apt to adopt cryptocurrency, especially with all the loose monetary policy throughout the Western nations, especially. Other thing, and I'll leave it here because like I said, this is the only show for the last one for the rest of the week. So I got something going on, but I want you to look, because this is very important, on what's going on in Australia. There's a lot of videos of what's going on in Australia. Very precarious. This is how a Western nation becomes a tyrannical nation. And once you give that government that kind of power, same thing will happen here if we give them the power. We've already given them some. They will continue to utilize that power. And even if they stop, you've already crossed that Rubicon, and now it's just a standard which can be used at any given crisis. So in Australia, once, even if this is over, you can bet your bottom, now that that has been deemed an acceptable response, that they will use that for the next crisis or the next supposed pandemic or whatnot. So if it was me, if I was in charge of the U.S. or one of the states or whatever, I would sanction Australia at this point for humanitarian reasons. I would cease to do business. Like, we have a submarine deal with them now that France is really pissed off. I'd be like, hey, we're out, dude. No more strategic alliance if this is the way you're going to treat your people. We'll deal with France or whatever. We'll deal with somebody else. But that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. People being beaten, people being thrown on the ground over, and some of them have medical exemptions for masks. These are for like mask wearing and stuff outside. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely insanity. Like, the way their government's speaking about unvaccinated people in general that don't comply with whatever the government's coming out, they're gonna have less freedoms. Well, freedoms, at least in the American point of view and natural law perspective, is inherent, and the government itself doesn't grant these freedoms. So how does it go? These are not freedoms in the sense the Australian government is looking at their privileges. So you get the privilege of having another hour of rec time. I was like, to me, the first thing that popped in my mind is I get yard time. I'm in a prison. They're going to give me an extra hour of yard time or whatnot so I can go work out or whatever. It's crazy. That's how dystopian a Western culture can turn. Even like, so don't think that we're immune to that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, look that one up. Look Australia up. Watch some of the videos. Those people look a lot like us over here. That country was a free country at one time. And I can't say that it is anymore. And it's been going that way, but now this is just like up to a whole nother notch. So anyway, I'll talk to you later. Peace.